In order to survive in the dangerous forest, the man cleverly used a rope and chose to suspend his home in the air. He had only lived here for a day when a tiger came scratching at his door, perfectly illustrating just how dangerous the wild can be. Previously, Allah built a shelter on a cliff, attracting over 40 million views, but because there were too many wolves around, wild beasts frequently visited at night. So he had no choice but to abandon it and find a safer place to stay. After walking for a while, he suddenly stopped in front of a large tree. Its 10-meter height provided a full sense of security. So Allah immediately had a bold idea. He first found some wooden sticks nearby, then sharpened all their ends, and drove them into the ground to form stakes. Since this location was on a slope, the first thing to do was to create a stable footing. Fortunately, it had rained just yesterday, making the soil quite soft. Allah didn't have to exert much effort to easily dig out a flat surface. Once done, he used a stick like a compass to mark out the exact area of his new home. Then he gathered more sticks and used mortise and tenon joints to assemble the foundation. For this shelter, Allah planned to build it in the air, so he reinforced the joints with iron nails. This way, even in strong winds and heavy rain, the suspended design wouldn't fall apart. It's just that the finished product looked a bit strange, making one want to sing a prison song. But he still felt this wasn't secure enough. So he added a reinforcing rim around the edges. This multiplied its load-bearing capacity several times over. It also maintained a lightweight design, so even if you were a skinny guy, you could easily lift it alone. The method for making the roof was slightly different. He first rounded off a piece of wood and secured a pillar with slanted notches. I believe viewers are quite familiar with this by now. That's right, it's the structure of a standard umbrella frame. This design has withstood the test of thousands of years, and its wind and water resistance is absolutely 5-star. The rest was filled in with wooden sticks. Once basically finished, with this quality, even if you stood on it, singing and dancing, it wouldn't wobble in the slightest. Of course, a floor was also essential. After paving all the areas, Allah also took the time to make a trapdoor. This would be the entrance and exit of the shelter. When tired, lying here for a short rest is pretty nice. However, transporting materials back and forth alone still made Allah feel quite exhausted. Moreover, this location by the cliff was very dangerous. If he fell, no one would even notice. The best solution right now would be to find some helpers nearby. But since this was deep in a primeval forest, and Allah lived in the wild year-round, he was used to doing everything by himself. He couldn't find a partner to lend a hand, so he had to turn to social apps. With an app like which smartly matches based on hobbies, he might meet someone who also loves the wild. Working together saves effort, and when lonely, they could share their troubles. It's a pity he gave it a straight bangs hairstyle. If it were parted in the middle, the audience might like it more. But what should he do about the walls? Allah thought for a moment, and immediately brought out his secret weapon, plastic wrap. Since the shelter was to be built in the air, there was no need to worry about defensive properties. He just needed to ensure it was warm and windproof. Plus, this transparent view allowed a 360-degree, blind spot-free observation of the Next, he used a rope to tie the frame to the large tree, allowing the shelter to be suspended in the air. The thick trunk was sturdy enough to support all the weight. It's just that climbing up and down every time was time-consuming, and hoisting it up by himself was extremely strenuous. So Allah had to find more sticks, securing one end to the top of the tree, and connecting the other end to the wooden frame. This created a simple pulley system. Now, although pulling it was less strenuous, it was still not hassle-free, but at least it was much better than just using brute strength. There are countless men in the world, but there's always a way to solve every difficulty. This spot was 5 or 6 meters above the ground, guaranteeing it was safe enough to live in, and the interior space was spacious enough for himself. It's just that getting in and out was still inconvenient. Therefore, he added a rope ladder at the bottom. Now, climbing up was much more convenient. And naturally, he couldn't cook inside the shelter, so dug a small hole down the slope. After clearing a smoke vent, it became a fireplace. It must be said, it burned very well, and the rising smoke could also repel mosquitoes. Living in the wild, the food eaten is quite simple. For dinner, Allah just made some egg fried rice to reward himself. The abundant carbohydrates could replenish his depleted energy. After eating his fill, he retreated inside, then closed the trapdoor and lay down, ready for a peaceful rest. But barely half an hour after dozing off, a violent shaking woke him up. The camera panned, and surprisingly, a tiger was clawing at his ladder. This jolted La completely awake, and he immediately opened the trapdoor to look down. But the tiger was relentless, even trying to find a way to climb up. Luckily, he hadn't slacked off earlier, and had built a trapdoor. Sleeping inside, at least he didn't have to worry about his life.